Hi guys, how's it going? It's Sarah here with Serendipity Book Club, and I'm doing my April book reviews. So I read 12 books last month, and they were all amazing, so I can't wait to go over them with you. So let's just get right into it. The first one that I read is by Matt Haig, who also wrote The Midnight Library, if you've heard of that. It's called The Comfort Book, and this book was adorable. It was just like a short little kind of like self-helpy book. Um, it was just like I saw it at a bookstore when I was going past it, and I just had to pick it up, and it's just really sweet. Like, it just really made my day, I would say. So I definitely recommend reading that one. And I just love Matt Haig in general. He's amazing. The next book that I read was our classics book for last month, right? I don't know. Well, anyways, it was Jane Eyre, and it was so good. I absolutely love Jane Eyre. We've been reading classic novels and kind of going over it together. So I watched the movie and the show, and I read the book, and it is just so good. If you want to read classic novels, I absolutely recommend. It's by Charlotte Bronte, one of the Bronte sisters. So this is about a girl who, it's basically her like whole life story. So like her father passes away, so her uncle ends up taking care of her. He ends up passing away, and so his wife and like her daughters and her terrible sons like are who she has to live with, and they're horrible, like so mean to her. And they basically treat her like crap, send her off to this like horrible boarding school, and so it's like her going through all the horrible stuff there, and then she leaves to become a teacher or like a governess, and she goes to this hall basically where she teaches this little French girl who's the ward of the guy who lives there, and it's this whole crazy love story, and there's a big twist. I don't want to give too much away, but I absolutely loved it. It was so much fun to read. I will absolutely read it again. It was just, there's like tears and intense stuff and twists and a mystery and so much love. And it's just a really happy ending. I really, really enjoyed it. I can't believe it was written so long ago, like in the 1800s. It's crazy because a lot of the stuff is kind of relatable. But yeah, you never know who you're really dating, I guess, or who you're gonna marry, is all I'm gonna say about that. The next book that I read was the last book of the series, The Twisted Lies. So the whole Twisted series I talked about last month because I read the first 3. I ran through these books. I'm absolutely obsessed with them. So I read the last one. It's about this like billionaire who owns this like tech company. His name's Christian. And he like falls in love with this girl Stella, who's like this big like model on social media, and she's a stalker, and you kind of get into their lives, and a bunch of crazy stuff happens, and they end up like fake dating, and you know how those always end. But it's super spicy and super fun. I really, really enjoyed it. Also, I have my guest right here, Moon, my little co-star. She's hanging out with us in our video. The next book that I read was, what is it? Oh my god, so I started the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas. She wrote the Court of Thorns and Roses series, and I talked about the first one last month, so I read the second one. It's called Crown of Midnight, and this book was really, really good. It's about this girl who is like this insane assassin, and she ends up being like, I don't want to give anything away, but she's like really important in the world. And she's a badass, and there's love intrigue and a lot of suspense, and it's basically her trying to save the kingdom and get revenge on her friend who died, and just this evil king. And it's just a really, really good fantasy novel. So I absolutely recommend this book. I love it. I can't wait to read the rest. I have them on my Libby, and I'm definitely going to try to blow through those so I can give you guys the reviews for them next month. Well, this month since it's May already. The next one that I read is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So this one is from the Hunger Games series. This is the prequel, and I know that this movie is coming out now, so I was like, let me just read it. I read the Hunger Games series like right out of high school, something like that. It was a really long time ago, but they're really, really good books. I absolutely recommend them. Much better than the movie, always, right? So I'm really excited to see what they did with this movie too. And this is just about the President Snow. So he's like the bad guy, right, in all of the books. And it's just kind of like his coming up story and kind of like how he got to where he is. And it's like the first Hunger Games ever in there, and so like how he basically like got them to start like the bidding, got them to start like sending in like stuff to the different people that are in there. And he's also a mentor, so this is the time where they have mentors for the first time, and so he was the first mentor for one of the people for District 13. So it was very interesting and intense, so it was a really good one. The next one that I read was, oh my goodness, Part of Your World. Oh, this book was so good. This is like the love story romances that I love. So it's about this girl and this guy. So this guy's in like the small hometown. This girl's like rich and living in the city, and she has to go to the small town for a funeral. Her car breaks down, and so this guy like stops and helps her, and they like see each other at a bar, and then they end up kind of like creating this relationship. But her family, she like works in a hospital, and they like are super rich and like rude to her, so a bunch of crazy stuff happens, and then, you know, like they rekindle their relationship, and they're trying to figure out how they're gonna make their lives work together. And it was just so sweet. I really, really enjoyed it. She just came out with a new book that I got in my book of the month. I can't remember the name. I'll have it up here to show you guys whenever I edit this video. But I loved it, and I absolutely recommend any book that she writes. The next book that I read was the Bretman Rock book that he came out with. I love him. He's a super funny like Instagrammer, YouTuber, and he just always makes me laugh, so I figured why not. I'll read his little self-help book. It's kind of like an autobiography about his life. It's called You're That Bitch, because he's always like, bitch, and everything, and my sisters and I always joke about him. So it was a really fun one. If you want like a light, fun read that kind of talks about him, and it really made him respect him more and kind of like to know where he came from. It was really cool. He's just a really sweet person. The next one, oh my god, Bridgerton! Please watch Queen Charlotte if you haven't, and the newest book I think just came out today of Queen Charlotte by Julia Quinn. I'm so excited to read it. I ordered it. So this one is our series book club that we had last month. So we read the second one. This is Kate and Anthony's story, The Viscount Who Loved Me. And this is very different than the show. So if you've watched the show, the book is much better, right? That always happens. And so it's basically their love story and just her hating them. It's like the haters to lovers kind of thing. It's a really fun one, and they play Pall Mall, and they have like disagreements, but he's so sweet to her, and she's just so sassy and strong-headed, and we love that. The next one is S.A. Cosby. So I read both of his books, or two of his books. So last month for book club, we had Razorblade Tears, and I read Blacktop Wasteland because I just loved him and wanted to see what else he wrote. So Razorblade Tears, I absolutely recommend. Such a freaking great book. I might have even talked about it because I read it a few months ago, and I was like, book club, we have to read it. It's about like this, I think I did talk about it in the other one, whatever. It's just like about these two fathers whose sons died, and they basically get revenge. I don't want to get into it too much. I know I talked about it more in the other videos if you want to go back to it. And they're just like these badass old men who like were in prison before, like they don't give a shit, and they're like just dealing with all these problems because their sons were part of the LGBTQ plus community, and it's crazy. I think the book club loved it. It was different than stuff that we read before, but absolute thriller, and it's very heartwarming. Absolutely recommend. Blacktop Wasteland definitely had kind of like the same tropes as Razorblade Tears. It was just this this man who was like struggling with his family. He's, you know, trying to get out of his like bad past that he was in before. He was in prison, and now he's like on the good side of things. He has his own like auto body shop that's like, you know, earning money that's like legal, and but he needs money because like his business is going down. He like owes a bunch of stuff, so he starts doing like racing on the side because that's what his father did, and then like a bunch of shit goes down. It's really great. It's very intense and kind of like realistic in a way, like how it ends. I'll just say that. So if you like S.A. Cosby, recommend 100%. Okay, so I lied. So the book that we read last month, or yeah, in April for our series book club was Sense and Sensibility. So Jane Eyre we read in March. But I don't think I finished it until April, probably. That's probably what happened. So Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. If you haven't seen Pride and Prejudice, I don't even think you should be watching these videos anymore, so we're probably not friends. I'm just kidding. I'm obsessed with Pride and Prejudice, so Sense and Sensibility. I've been wanting to read any other of her books, and so I'm definitely going to get through them this year through our Classics Book Club. Please join if you want to be a part of it. It's very fun. I like explain what the book's about, like, and like do recaps during the meeting, so if you're confused about anything, it kind of clears it up and makes it easier to understand. So Sense and Sensibility is about these two sisters, and they're just so cute. One is like very like quiet but like stern, and the other one is just like can't keep her emotions in. Like she's just like loud and just obnoxious, and I see myself in both, and I think that's how other people relate with it as well. And they just have issues with men and just basically dealing with like these dickhead guys because they're trying to get married, and like so much drama happens, and it's just really fun, like a really fun read. I absolutely enjoyed it. I also watched the series and the movie, and they were both awesome. So even if you just want like a cute little timepiece just to throw on, definitely watch Sense and Sensibility. It's really fun. The last book that I read in April was You Shouldn't Have Come Here, and this is by the same author as The Perfect Marriage. I think her name's Geneva Rose. I'll have it up here. Anyways, this book was crazy. It was just like this wild, oh my god, like this wild, like twisted story, like huge twist at the end. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I don't think it's even that big. I audiobooked it because it just came out, and it's like this woman who's just like trying to take a vacation for herself, and she goes to like this little small town. She's staying in this Airbnb, and the Airbnb host guy is like on a farm, and he's like super hot, and so they kind of like form this little attachment. But like all this like weird like eerie stuff keeps happening. She like hears a scream. She's like, did I imagine that? And a bunch of people are like, oh, you shouldn't have come here. They're like looking at her weird. They like know her name when she's like, I didn't tell them my name. But the ending, I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I did not see that coming, and I would say I'm pretty seasoned with like twists. I don't know. These authors never fail to surprise me, I swear. So that is it, you guys. Those are all 12 books that I read. I had so much fun reading these last month, and I've already like 5 books in this month. I think I've already read 60 books this year out of the 150 that I want to. So hopefully we'll get to that. I'm super excited to tell you guys about my May books next month. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.